Cause I got my friends, they laugh when I'm not that funny. Don't try to make me be somebody. Cause if they did, then they're not my friends. Don't care if I'm flying first class or if I got a brand new bus pass. Cause if they did,
This is the Friendsday Wednesdays men takeover, right?
Yep.
This is it.
First, we want to thank the ladies for allowing us this opportunity to use their platform to express our thoughts and feelings and talk about just how God has moved in our lives on different topics. And for those who are new to the platform, please subscribe, give the ladies content, show the ladies love because they do a great job. Their content is great.
Yes.
They are putting themselves in a position to be vulnerable. So, as an audience, we all should appreciate that coming from our lovely Black queens. And so, again, ladies, we thank y'all for this opportunity. So, Jamal, if you would start us off in prayer, then we can get this show on the road.
Yeah. Lord, thank you for this time, this opportunity to teach one another, to learn from one another, and to reach as many as we possibly can, and pray that they gather something from this. Pray for us as we go through this conversation, this dialogue with a lot of meaningful conversation. Guide us, teach us, and help us. Amen.
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 Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and start it off right. So I'm Jamal. Rosie is my wife. We've been married about 20 years. August 2nd. So big shout out to her for putting up with me for all this time. Definitely takes some grace uh, and patience when you deal with me. So definitely appreciate you for who you are. So I'm also a veteran of the military, spent 21 years, 20 years, 7 months to be exact, uh, serving the country, and I wouldn't take a day back. I appreciate it. Shout out to my
Thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Sure,
Sure.
sure.
I'm Greg Williams, Janae's husband, and I thank God for her. She's that rib that they spoke about in the Bible that we had missed. I say rib because I believe she covered those vital and special organs that we partake in, the heart and the lungs and all those special parts. Just like when you put on the Kevlar vest, that center mass thing that they all protect you from. I think she does that for me. We've been married 24 years. We learn from each other. We taught each other some things, and hey, we still here. May 12th was a great day. So again, I love her, and we did some magnificent things. And that's a little sum up of what she means to me.
Amen.
Man.
I'm Travis. I'm Keisha's husband. Been knowing Keisha for 30 years, married to her 28. We have 3 kids from the ages of 27 to 20. We have seen it all. We have been through it all. And God has brought us through, to get to this point. And I am extremely grateful for her. I tell most people when I'm talking about her, the number one quality in her that I think I love and admire the most is how affectionate she prays for her family and for her kids. And I know for a fact, if the way I hear her pray for our kids, I know for a fact she prays for me in the same manner. And I just love that about her. She loved the Lord. She loved to teach folks. She loved to help guide, especially young ladies. And so I'm so appreciative of the life that she's touched thus far, and I'm thanking God in advance for the lives that she will touch. That's just a little bit about us.
Okay. I'm Tim. My wife is Odalis. We have been married be 22 years next month on June 22nd, 28th, sorry. We've been knowing each other since the year 2000. Yeah. And we have two children together. I have two older kids by previous marriage, um, ages 20 and 17, our two children. And I can honestly say that if it wasn't for her spiritual steadfastness, her spiritual walk, that I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you fellas today. She is definitely my ride or die. Um, I love her to death. She is the embodiment of what I feel a wife should be. Um, I mean, I can't give her enough kudos. I love her, and I'm just happy that she is in the company of the other spiritual wives of you guys, and I'm just happy to be here with you guys as well. Um, I can't say anymore. Yes,
Hey, man, you're the leader of the re-engage community at the church, right?
sir.
Yeah, so we get to serve alongside of you, man. You want to tell us a little bit more about it real quick?
Well, yeah. As I stated, man, me and my wife, we've been together 22 years. We went through some stormy periods a few years ago, and actually, it was right before I had the privilege of meeting you and Donovan. We all moved into the same neighborhood. Um, yeah, we went through, and we were on the brink of divorce, like days, like 2 or 3 days from signing papers. And man, God, he intervened. He had other plans for us, and so out of that, we connected with Reengage. It's a marriage ministry, and us coming out of that, God put it on our hearts to share our testimony and to help other couples that you know may be going through what we went through, or similar circumstances, or to be mentors to other couples. So yeah, that's what keeps us going. I appreciate you throwing that plug in there, Jay. um, that's something that keeps her and I connected and keep us on our toes. But
Well,
yeah.
Good stuff.
I had to, man.
Yes,
That
sir.
helps us too. Even though we're moderators and we facilitate the meeting, we get a lot from the meeting, and we definitely wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you guys, encouraging us to get in there and seeing that we do have a good relationship, and to
Yeah.
be able to plug in with other married couples,
Yeah.
through the good and the bad. So the re-engage it ain't just for the struggle. So.
Right. Right. Appreciate
Amen.
that.
I'm Donovan. My wife is Anita. We've been at this thing married, locked in for 9 years on June 18th. So we're the babies of the bunch. But we started out as the best of friends. The thing I love about Anita, um, she reminds me of the person I admire most, which is my mother. So I see so many of the same qualities in her. So um, you talk about praying. Yes, she's a prayer warrior. She keeps us covered in prayer. So we absolutely benefit from that, right? So um, she's small in stature, but she'll take on anybody. She'll battle anybody for us. So I appreciate that about it also. Um, so we have let's see, 3 kids, 2 boys, 21, 20, and then we have a 4-year-old that runs the house. So um so that's a little bit about us.
Y'all made me feel bad. I didn't even say nothing about my kids.
I didn't either. So don't worry about it.
Right, Greg, you got the track star and the academic and the cowboy
Yeah,
and
they are
then
5 of them.
basketball star.
at 5, and they doing their own things.
Right. And I had the chance to coach one of your oldest son,
Yeah.
who was one of the best athletes I ever coached. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's crazy, man. The background is deep because I had a chance to coach a little bit of Tim's son.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
See him grow. The backgrounds are deep, man.
Yep.
There's one common scenario in all those athletes, huh?
Right.
Right.
Good
Cool.
stuff.
All right, fellas. Let's get into let's go a little deeper on our appreciation for our wives as mothers, since we're coming off of Mother's Day. We'd like to shout out to all the moms and women in general, who played a part in raising a man or young men, or currently raising, a young man. Let's go in a little deeper on our appreciation towards our wives as mothers.
Right. So I'll go ahead and start out by, talking about how special my wife is and, just saying how gracious she is with who she is to everybody. You can't say that she's ever switched up on you. You get what you deserve, and that's grace with a lot of people. And that's how I end up choosing my wife. She reminded me, well, it took me a while to kind of see the resemblance in how my mom was as a gracious woman. She was down to business, but she definitely loved. And unfortunately, I got some regret with, coming up as a young man, not showing that love enough.
Yeah.
And, I try to pay it back now
Yeah.
as much
Yeah.
as I can. Whether it's fixing something around the house, trying to call and do things. I still got to do better with that, of course, just like everybody else, calling and keep in touch. But she's definitely a strong woman. Spent 32 years in the school system, so my loyalty, has been built on foundation. I watched her do that, uh, so that's what led to my time in the military. 20 years in the military, 20 years married. That time, you don't realize how important it is until you stand back. And I hate to say that, here I am, almost, 41 years old, and I'm finally starting to really, really understand that appreciation for them and everything that they went through. And that's unfortunate for our young men that it take us so long to kind of figure things out and open our eyes and pay attention. So, um, but yeah, so my wife is great. I love her. She's intelligent. She's she's definitely a praying woman. Prays for the boys all the time. We see the changes. Prays for me and her. We spend time and we do things that I used to be fearful of doing, like sitting down, reading together, doing things as a couple, building as a couple. She helps us bring that together. I can dream it, and I can talk to her about it, and she'll help me bring those things to life. So that's what our spouses are here to do, and I definitely appreciate her.
So Jay, just quick question. So y'all met while in the military?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we met in Dover, Delaware. She was already there when I got there, and I ended up showing up a couple, maybe a year and a half later, uh, and we were friends at first, worked across from each other, and then, you know, she had some things that she was dealing with that, you know, I felt like by nature I see it, and I wanted to be there for her, help her as much as I could.
Yeah.
And one thing kind of led to another. We were getting cheesesteaks on South Street, and then we got married. So that was about how fast that went.
Nothing like
While we're here, let's
the
go ahead
Ill
and
nothing
make
like
this
the
thing
Ill
official.
right?
Yeah,
South
since we're
Street.
here.
Yeah. Cool.
That's what's up, man.
Pretty cool.
And did I answer the question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I can tell you what my wife Anita means to not just me, especially me and the boys, right? As a mother and our mother figure, as I mentioned before, the youngest is 4 years old, but for the most of this time it's been, the four of us. Anita, the only woman in the house with three men, young men. So she's been kept us organized, the kind of emotional stabilizer with all the testosterone in the house. Not that any of us have an aggressive nature, but
Yeah.
she's just been keep us all level, again, covered in prayer, right? Because three knuckleheads in the house need a lot of prayer, right? So she keeps us covered in prayer. She just gives her all to us and the boys, and always thinking about us. So always looking for ways to just make us happy, put a smile on our face. Our biggest cheerleader. So we appreciate her for that.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, thing about my wife, when we met, it was a whole different dynamic. Neither one of us was looking to get into a relationship. I had just was fresh off, my divorce from my first wife, and she had just gotten out of a volatile relationship. So neither one of us were looking for, a relationship. And with that being said, she was the first woman that I got involved with that nothing physical happened, from the outset. It allowed us to get to know each other, um, on a friendship basis. Um, and she's the first woman that ever challenged me, uh, you know, with life, because I had never been asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? By a woman. I'd never been asked that, never got challenged like that. So I would say from the outset, she has helped me shape and mold myself into the man that I am today. Um, when it comes to, when we started having children, when it comes to her nurturing and her motherhood, um, she has a way about it because she's always been family oriented. My upbringing was totally different. I came from had both parents in the house, but it was dysfunctional, very dysfunctional. So I didn't come from that loving family atmosphere that she came from, and so she's helped me uh, with that and be open to um, things that I normally would just shy away from because I wasn't used to that. You know, um, so from her spirituality, from her nurturing as a mother, from her loving and um attention as a wife. She checks off all the boxes, when it comes to that. So I mean, I can't I have nothing to complain about when it comes to her. I mean, she's not perfect. Nobody is, but I wouldn't trade her for anything. I love her to death.
Amen.
Oh man, dang man, that's gonna be
Yeah.
dang, man.
That's,
You know what I'm
that's
saying,
right.
Greg?
Yeah.
Man,
Dang, got to put on your big boots and, wade out to the
wipe,
different water.
wipe a tear right here, man. That's all.
All right, Greg, you got to follow that.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
rough,
Greg, you
Tim.
follow that. Greg, you follow that.
Well, I met my wife at actually Nita's mom's house. She's fresh out of college, and I was over there visiting. That's a whole nother story,
Busy.
a whole nother segment. But after that day, we went out and enjoyed ourselves at the beach and some other places. And I noticed as we was dating or getting to know each other, her qualities and the things that she liked. And again, Tim, she challenged me and asked me those questions too, that I didn't have an answer for.
I didn't
And
either.
and I was like,
Alive? I just want to be alive in 5
yeah,
years.
I
How
want to
about that?
be here in 5 years. I mean, what are you saying? Um, but she's very, very spiritual. We work in the church. She's a elder at our church. So she preach and teach and all that. She's prayer warrior. Very good to our kids. She keeps up and keeps everybody in order. Most times somebody say, "Well, what y'all got going on this weekend?" I said, "Let me check with my wife." Because that's a text or email or whatever, or I'll be saying, "Well, let's go see Travis and them this weekend." We supposed to be in Iowa. Oh, I didn't know that. But the ticket's already been, paid for. So I love her for keeping us in order and keeping us prayed up.
Right.
I think over the years of growing up under my parents, going to church and whatever case may be, I knew church. I did church.
Yeah.
I probably could tell you the ins and outs of church, but what I actually there,
Yeah.
nah, I would say no. Um, so over the last years of marriage and us coming together in prayer and going these different places and reading the Bible, seeing the scriptures in the morning, I think that brought us to a certain place. Now that they see, even the kids see it, and now they are doing the same things. So I commend her and all that she has done, and my mom. I don't want to leave out her as well, but my wife, and all I could say, without a doubt, best thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
Travis.
Oh.
Man, it's good stuff. All right, Lakeisha and I originally met in college here in Charlotte, and we dated. I think we started dating like junior year in college. Once I got, she started tolerating me once I got some of that running out of me. Then we have this joke, is because of her the reason I got out of college. Yeah, things got real rocky there for a second. But what Lakeisha did for me, especially in the early days, bought me structure, right? Bought me structure, held me accountable. She held me accountable. She's big on communication, so she liked to talk things through, and I wasn't really used to that. Like I made my own decisions. I was raised by my mother. My daddy wasn't. My daddy was around, but he wasn't in the house. If that makes sense. I would see him maybe once or twice a month or something like that. Only, I mean, because I lived next door to his mother. So, um, and so and I really, me and my mom, we talked, but we didn't really talk. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have like those conversations.
Mhm.
And but that's fine. I can't imagine being a single mom trying to raise, a young, a boy, then a teenage boy, and then to a young man. Know that was tough, especially back, in the 80s, 70s and 80s. I know that was tough. But when things really started, um, really happening for us, Lakeisha wasn't raised in the church. So as our relationship matured, she got introduced to the church, right? And she began to gain this hunger to want to know more, wanting to learn, right? And wanted to understand. So she became very diligent as it relates to like finding studies, Bible studies, this, before, you
Mm.
have podcasts and things like that, right? And getting involved. And then she, you know, started seeing the benefits of prayer and how prayer worked. And my wife, I'm smiling inside because we had a lot of fun in the beginning, right? When life wasn't that serious, right? When you're young, life is not that serious, and you doing things you probably shouldn't be doing, and all that stuff. But as life, came into focus, for her, since I'm talking about her, the change was so evident in her in such a positive way. Um, Her friendships with her friends that she had before I even existed, just to see how healthy those friendships became. They were already healthy, but to see how the maturation process of just her friendships with her besties and a few others, to see all of that happen, and then we get to the stage, we get married, start having kids, and the structure, the Bible structure, the prayer structure that she installed into our household, um, was um, was on a different level. And I grew up in church like Greg. Like I mean, I grew up in the church. Like Sunday morning, I didn't care. Back then they didn't care if you went out on a Saturday. All they knew is that Sunday morning you better be in church, right? I don't care what time you come in. Sunday morning you better be in church. But like Greg said, physically we were always in church.
Mm.
But up here, right? It still had a ways to go, right? And so after that introduction, we started growing. We started growing together, learning from one another, based on experiences and things like that. And so as when the kids came, you know, she started, praying for the kids, started really nurturing the kids. And I mean, she was doing this as, when they was like toddlers, right? Just always talking to them, like even when they couldn't really like respond back, but she was always talking to them. And as a mother, I give her an A+, because of the structure that she instilled, the prayers, all the prayers that she throws up and that she still throw up for the kids. But the fruit that I see from all of that work is, even today, her kids talk to her almost daily.
Mm.
And there's no subject that's off limits. There is no situation where there's fear to discuss. There is a trust there that is pretty much, like I ain't the jealous type, but sometimes I get jealous. I be like, dang, my son Devin. I'm like, dang, Dev, like these are conversations you're supposed to have with your dad, bro. Like, you don't call your mom because you got woman problems. You call your dad
Right.
when you
I
got
got
woman
that.
problems,
I
right?
got this, right?
You know what I mean? Like,
My part.
come on, man. Look, I messed up enough, bro. I can help you with this, man. And it's just by instinct, the first person he called would be his mom. And I, you know, I admire that. I think I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy for him. And it gives me peace to know that if something was to happen to me, that I know because of the relationship that she had with our kids, that she'll be taken care of.
Mm.
Like I know Devin wouldn't turn his back on his mom, right? And he's only 20 and he's still trying to figure out life. But I know if something was to happen to me today, he'll step right in and he'll be straight, right? And so I just admire that about her. I love her to death. I love her consistency, um, with everything she does. I admire her drive, her energy as it relates to, her interactions with folks and interactions with me and, our family. The way she even interacts with my family, my mom, my aunts, and everything, like she love them all like they're her blood, her blood family. And I think I'm speaking for all of my aunts. I think they, in some cases, they might love her more than they love me, actually. You know, what I'm saying? And I say that jokingly, but she has a great relationship with my family, but I think it's because everybody in the family sees what I see,
Right.
right? And even though she's from a different part of the country, born and raised in Philadelphia, and I was born and raised in, Blythewood, Ridgeway, South Carolina. um, certain qualities is hard to ignore. And so I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to God that He blessed me with her, because I think that the timing on which when I met her when I was in my early 20s, or 1920, around then, was perfect, because I was headed down a road where there was no street lights, bro. Right?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
I see her as being the street lights on that dark road to help me get my feet, back where they need to be, and holding me accountable for not only being a man, but being a man of God, a man of integrity, holding me accountable, which we all need, right? We all need that. And so I'm so grateful for her. She means the world to me. Love her to death. So
yeah.
So I got a question for the fellas though. So we all talk about that dark, bumpy road that we all went through.
yeah.
Uh, I ain't here to talk about it, but you know, we want to talk about the pros. What are some things that we talk about them holding us accountable and growing past those things? What would a few changing moments in y'all lives that really, or not really changing moments? What are some things that you guys did along the way to help us grow and get to the men that we are today?
All right, I'll start. Num- I guess number one with me was uh, be grateful, right? Um, don't be afraid to express gratitude, man, when somebody lend a helping hand or somebody give you advice or something. Listen, like, especially when I was a young cat. Like I was, I worked with older guys, and a lot of people poured into me when I was young. And the importance of listening,
Mhm.
the importance of realizing that you don't know it all,
Mm,
right? Because if you know it all, there's no growth potential,
right.
right? So I think that me is when I slow down enough to realize that the decisions that I'm making is I'm going to end up in the place I don't want to be, and I'm headed there fast, right? And so just to take in all of the wisdom that was being poured into me, spiritual wisdom, street wisdom, wisdom that's coming from from ladies, like how you treat a woman, right? you know the things you say to a woman, the things you don't say to a woman, right? um as a young man, once I got through kind of being that knucklehead and started listening to people, things started turning. Relationships started to mend themselves. Relationships started to last, right? And sometimes I joke, and I call it just like crazy talk, bull jive. I think that's a word us country boys probably familiar with. But once I got through all of that and kind of started taking life serious, things kind of started turning
Right.
on a positive.
Yeah. Well, jive is a real word, and my jive turkey days, uh, I was lost. So, and it
I know
definitely
plenty of job turkeys too, Jay.
Yeah.
jive turkey. Uh, but but
Hmm.
yeah, man, it's one of those things you really have to slow yourself down, man, and that's when you really start to pay attention to really what's happening in your life, and without getting too deep in example, but I'll get in my little mood, and my sweet, lovely wife will come out and be like, "Hey, babe, can you or would you do you mind?" And I give her a straight, Pshung, and it took me a while. Like I had to step back and be like, "Dang." I sent a stray her way, but that wasn't even for her. And I had to really be like, man, that wasn't for her. I was just deep in thought. And I had to go back and apologize. I say, hey, babe, I was deep in thought. This is what I was doing. This is where I was at with my thought process. And I had to sincerely apologize. So
Hmm.
that was one of them things is, one of my turning points in my life was, paying attention to what's going on, not being too deep in thought. It's great to be in thought, but I realize when you too deep in thought, you think about a lot of things that really ain't even gonna happen, and you start creating scenarios, you start creating results in your head that really
Yeah.
it ain't, you don't need it. I would have an argument with her without her. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to argue with somebody that ain't even there. I mean, she's there, but
Yeah.
I have an argument with her in my head. I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say, and you don't need that. You just slow down and really listen, without taking things too personal. You got to get bumped and bruised. Get up, Craig. Get up, Craig. You got to take a couple on the chin and really
Right.
pay attention. It might come off as sounding personal, but you really have to take a couple welts on the chin to really listen to what's being said. And I think that's what helps me down the line, even with my kids. They might have a little attitude or whatever they got going on. If you listen a little deeper, you'll hear what's going on, and you'll be able to ask the appropriate questions. Because raising these boys, I had a blueprint, but that blueprint wasn't for them. It
Yeah.
was the blueprint I built. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The blueprint would have helped me, right?
Wow.
For raising me.
And
Yeah.
what's funny?
uh-huh.
They're so different, right? If
Yeah.
you have multiple, they're so different, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Your kids.
Three of them.
Yeah,
Three of
you
them.
you have to parent all of them in different ways, right? Because what worked for one may not work for the other.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to go on my tangent. I know we got limited airtime, but it's so many things that I can group together when I learn how to slow down. It'd be times where she'll want to get something off her chest, and I'll just sit there and listen. I'll be like, "Hey, babe, I don't want to respond. I just want to be able to hear you because when I
Mhm.
start to talk and ramble, then I'm
Mhm.
losing sight of what the issue is with you, and that's what I need to hear."
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely the overall picture is definitely slowing down in life. And my mom always tell me, slow down. She tell me every day when I'm driving back from Nebraska, when I'm going somewhere, when she see me ripping and running, boy, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, mom, slow down.
For me, one of the things that and this goes back, your parents can say stuff and it could be years later that, a switch, a flip in your head, uh, you know, and you'd be like, hmm. And that's basically, my father used to always say, you know, you better watch who you hang around, you know, watch the people that you hang with, you know. And it wasn't until later on, like I was in my 30s, had just gone, through my or was in the midst of going through my divorce with my first wife, you know, and I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was going nowhere fast, you know, uh, and I had to,
That 285 is a circle. So
yeah, it's a circle, man. It's a circle. You got 85 and 75 going through it, but you know, you had to get it, got to get off spaghetti
yeah.
dust. Boy. So anyway, I had to take myself out of that environment,
Yeah.
you know, because I knew um, that I was spinning my wheels. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't accomplishing anything, and the stuff that I was in, and yeah, it wasn't benefiting me. you know. I had to sit back and evaluate, and that little voice in the back of my head, your association, I had to take myself out of that environment and put myself in a total different, you know, place that was unfamiliar, hardly knew anybody, and that's what landed me in Memphis, Tennessee, where I met my wife. Um, God has a funny way of operating, man. And so, not to linger on too much on it, but that's something that I do from time to time is I evaluate my circle,
Yeah.
you know, and um, I'll do an evaluation. And I tell my son this, both my sons. Uh, Side note, Travis, my oldest boy's name is Devin too. Anyway, I tell them, I said, you think about the people that you're hanging around, if whether it be 3, 5 years, ask yourself where you was, when you met them and where you are now. How's that relationship with them benefited you or has hindered you? So I can honestly say if you've been in my circle for the last 5, 10 years, then you've definitely been, a source of inspiration and encouragement to me. Hats off to Donovan and Jamal. You know, yeah, I've been knowing y'all for the last eight,
Yeah,
9 years.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
26.
yeah. And, you know, it's been a source of encouragement. We built relationship. We've walked through things with each other, um, and we still here.
Yeah.
So you know that's something that I really felt that helped me along the way to grow. Was my association, people I kept in my inner circle. My inner circle is tight. If you know me, you know, I don't, venture out too much. I keep those that are in my circle close. I don't bring, a whole lot of unfamiliar unless, I have those that are in my circle vouch for those.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's the way I've operated. So that's something that I felt, has helped me.
I,
Yeah.
the spirit of that, I think mine was similar. They always said about my circles I thought was large. It
Yeah.
wasn't nothing that I could per se call or do or say, and those people will be there. But I learning as I got older and speaking with my wife, and she's saying, "Hmm, do you ever see? Well, these people call you, but when you call them, they're not showing up.
Mm,
Mm.
It's a very few people in my immediate circle now. Um, like I said, growing up, being a knucklehead, doing the things that I thought I was big enough and bad enough to do, only to learn that it was like you said, spinning your wheels, going nowhere fast. Again, I lived in Atlanta as well, and
hmm
yeah, it's a fun place,
Yeah,
but also a place you probably don't want to be married in.
exactly.
Um, so just to give Travis his flowers, we cousins, but we've been together as brothers more or less than cousins since
Mhm.
day one. I mean, as far as I remember, what,
Kindergarten,
5,
bro.
6, 7 years old? I don't know.
Kindergarten. Yeah. We go back.
And I have yet to say or be in a place or do anything that I can't say, if I call this dude, he's already there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know Donovan and over the years by way of marriage and learning um being around him and the soul a person that he is.
Mm.
Tim and Jamal, I only met y'all for, what's this, been a year or two now,
About the year.
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
does seem like I've known y'all for a long time.
yeah.
Um,
Likewise, likewise.
but I can say my wife opened my eyes to a lot of the stuff that, like I said, I was doing and the places I was going that didn't value anything. Um, so that was brought to my attention, and I had to sit back and evaluate myself. So again, yeah, I had to have um, life experiences change on me just to show me where I was and who should be around me and what the value was of them being around me.
Mm.
You know, a lot of people can be around you and take, but who's giving back to you?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, so that's without me going into, because we can be here all night long.
Yeah,
I think those are just some key points of things that I've done in my life and that I no longer do. But to give people their flowers now on a small circle, a small base, or whatever case may be. So I think other people need to think about their environment,
Right.
who they're hanging around, and whether they're meat and potatoes on this.
right.
If they're not giving you no substance and they're not feeding you, what are they there for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell my boys that as well as my daughters.
My turning point. It's a little hard for me because my mom was a big voice in my life, right? So I lost my father at a very young age, my biological father. Now I had a man who raised me, was very much a father to me. But I lost my biological father at 9 months, so I never knew him, and it was a while before I even had a relationship with that side of my family, just because of an unknown. But there were also an uncle in my life who was very close to me, and I lost him at a young age.
Mm.
There was a cousin who kind of took me under his wings, and I lost him at a young age. So I thought there was something about me, to be quite honest with you. So I always wanted to do the right thing for my mom because I didn't want my mom to worry or, cry over, worry about me. And she was the one thing I had that I felt that type of connection to. Now, my stepfather, now he raised me like his own, so I don't want to take anything away from him. Was a great man. We lost him a couple years ago, but my mom is who I always wanted to please. So for the most part, what she told me, I kind of took heed to. And my point is, I pretty much did the right things, but the thing that changed with me was actually, you talk about a friend from day one, Greg, was Peanut. So I remember riding home from USC playing football. We had just had a practice, and Peanut had left. He was the only one. So he was just leaving high school. He would play gospel music all the time. The Canton spirituals, he would play all the time. So riding home from practice, playing Canton spirituals, man, the spirit came over me. Right. That's when I got saved.
Wow.
Riding home from practice, I had to pull over. I'm a young man. I don't know what's going on, but the spirit is crying and I don't know why.
Right.
That was the biggest change because then I was like, I wanted to live not just for myself, I want to be saved, I didn't see myself having a long life. So, because of those things that I saw happen, I felt like for some reason that was my destiny. So that was the biggest change, right? I think that's probably the biggest change for any of us, right? But now, not that I stayed on the straight and narrow after that, right? So I
Understood.
as soon as the career started doing well and things started taking off for me, I started smelling myself. But then I came back to myself because I was looking in the mirror and I didn't like the person I saw. It's like, nah, this person, talking about running. I was like, nah, I'm not a liar, but I'm lying to women. And it was only women I tell the truth to anybody else, but it was that, right? So I came to myself, as they say, and then that's when I decided, nah, I don't want to be this person anymore. That was probably the biggest change for me. My circle stayed small. a country boy from a small town, so you don't have a big circle anyway, right? So that was probably the biggest change.
I have a lot of day one, and it's we keep in touch, but it might be once every 6 months,
Yeah,
once a
yeah.
But when you serve and you travel and you go through things with people, you watch other friends, family members pass along, and you talk about their kids. You know what kind of grades their kids get. You spend hours with people. You sitting on a plane for hours doing random stuff. You have all kind of conversations. So it's a lot of people that I definitely hold near and dear to me, and it is too many. I ain't gonna say it's too many to name, but it's definitely some people that I can call you my day one. If I can invite you to the house, you know,
That makes sense, Jamal, from a military perspective, because you guys are quote unquote in the bunker together in that foxhole. So you guys actually be in situation, not that all situation with life or death, right? But you're in situations where you spend that time with each other. So that makes sense from
oh yeah.
20 years in the military. Yeah.
You're gonna meet some people. You're gonna meet some people that you quickly lose sight of, that deserve to be lost sight of. And what we realize, me and my wife as a couple, that it's a privilege. Not everybody deserves our time, our energy.
Yeah.
And you got to take that back, because
Yeah.
it'll take from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are seasons, where people in your life, right? And I think, just like with the weather and the calendar, all seasons, come and go, right? And I think that's the same with people. I think when you're at a certain place in life and somebody else is at a different place in life, sometimes it's hard to connect, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard to connect. And if you're able to connect and help them build and grow, that's a great thing. But sometimes you run into some folks, man, that you know them from around the way, but they just content being in that same spot, and you have moved on, right? And sometimes it's hard to connect. I think that's real with family members. I think that's real with childhood friends, college friends. I'm pretty sure, we all can name, a couple people that we wish, like, dang, man, it'd be nice to rekindle this. But folks' lives are in different places, and it's kind of hard to navigate those relationships now, with the separation, or the divide is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong, by any means. It's just an example of two people being in two different places in life.
Yeah, things just don't align sometimes, and
Yeah,
that's
it
okay.
happens.
Sometimes you lose them on hard feelings, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way
So,
it goes.
so guys, would y'all say that, listen to everybody conversation on that topic? Um, do you think that these things changed after we got married, more or less, or did we see this prior to?
Oh man. So with me, I think a lot of what where I responded earlier was along those marriage years life, but there's turning points everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So for me, my turning point in fitness, you look in the mirror and you be like, man, I need to get it together. You had in moments you look in the mirror, you don't see yourself. So
Right.
I had those turning moments, but I think the way I was those questions, you can also answer them in any way. Like you had a turning point with the relationships and your kids. There's many ways you can answer that. We all chose what was important to us, and it's just one of those things. It's a turning point in marriage. It's a turning point when you really learn how to become a parent, a friend. It's a growth mindset.
Got you.
Yeah, I think, I got married when I was almost 40 already. So, that'd have been too late for me to get things together. Or it wouldn't have been too late, but you know what I mean. You know.
Right.
So I had to kind of figure that thing out, for myself, by myself, being single. So I think that has a lot to do with it too, right? I think people kind of naturally mature at certain ages. I think there's a study that says around this age is when men start to kind of figure things out. And then if you happen to be married during that time, that has a lot to do with it too. It's the natural maturity stages for us.
I would say situation and circumstance for me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, back then my circumstance and situation, fresh off a divorce, um, 2 children. Um, I had to look at things different. It wasn't about me no more, just myself. I had 2 young kids to think about, and going forward, every decision that I made from that point on not only affected me, would affect them as well. I would have to say situation and circumstance is, something that triggered me to look at things different, reevaluate things, reevaluate my surroundings, how I operated, steps I made from that point, forward. Because again, it wasn't just me anymore. Still was in survival mode, survival to the point of had 2 mouths to feed and clothes to put on their back and make sure they all right, even before me. So I would say that was what triggered my mind change and mindset.
Wow.
Life is full of pivots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree to that. Life is full of pivots, man. What you have to do, man, stay prayed up.
That's for
Pray
sure.
before you make decisions. Pray over those that you care about and that you love. And when life throws you, I call it a curveball. Um, you know how to deal with it, right? And I really think that it's important that we as fathers train like our kids to learn how to pivot in life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that is important that we explain to them. I use this term count the cost as it relates to your decision making.
Mhm.
Right. I need everybody to understand the consequences of the decisions that you're making. Are you willing to pay the cost if that decision goes south? In times like that, I try to talk them through what it looks like to pivot,
Mm.
right? They may think I may need alcohol to have a good time. Not necessarily. No, no. You don't need alcohol to have a good time, right? To have a good time is a mindset, right? You walk into places and around people and things with the mindset that, yo, we gonna we're gonna enjoy ourselves. You don't need alcohol to get the party started. It's just a mindset. It's a mindset. So
Yes.
training young folk how to pivot and the importance of pivoting to navigate life, I think is a big deal. And so, and we've all tripped, what I'm saying? We all done tripped up and nobody walk is perfect. But it's just about the awareness,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It's about the awareness, just being aware of where you are, what you're doing, the consequences of what you're doing, the decisions that you're making. Um, it's funny now being, 52, now I know how hard it is to make a decision when you don't pray first versus when you pray about it first, right?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because when you pray about it, it seems like when you make a decision, like you have peace with it,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? You have a certain level of peace with it. Versus if you just like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy a car without looking at my finances. I'm just gonna go buy a car, right? That kind of stuff. And so, I think that was a great question, Greg. I just think that as we go through life, you have to learn how to pivot and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I was just thinking about that term, what you just said with counting the cost, how big a range it is.
Yeah.
And you know it came to mind, you know how back in the day, even now, a simple term that we would use, we'd be like, all right now.
All right now.
All right now. That could mean a lot of stuff.
Right.
On the cost, boy, that'll turn some heads.
That's
Hey,
what
everybody knew what that meant, right?
all right now. Yeah.
Head to the side. All right now.
Right.
Yeah. Know exactly what that meant.
Or okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, this is good stuff right here, man. So real quick, so if you was talking to your younger self,
Hmm.
right? Knowing what you know now, what be if you could have like a 3-minute conversation with your younger self, what would be some of the things that you would bring up in that conversation?
Ooh. Count the cost.
What you
Count the
telling
cost.
young Greg?
Count the cost.
Count the cost.
Count the right.
House jive turkey.
That's right.
Gosh. Now, because I had the chance to think about this earlier with, 19-year-old me. 19-year-old me was already married. You know what I'm saying?
Woo.
Wow.
I had, yeah. Was I 19? No, my bad. I was wrong. Two, don't even worry about this number.
22 year old.
19, yeah.
21.
I was
22.
19. Two carried the one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
You was married in your mind, right?
I was somewhere.
You was locked in.
That's how bad it is. I had to figure out where I was and like, man, and I thought about it earlier. I hate to go off subject, but Tim was talking about how we've known each other since 2016, and we look at 2016 as if that wasn't 8-9 years ago, and how many things happened
Yeah.
in
Yep.
8 to 9 years. You know what I'm saying? And things happen every day that shape and mold you. So yeah, that's my little tangent, man. These times going by fast, and you don't realize how much you appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I can kind of go into telling 19-year-old me, appreciate it, pay attention,
Mhm.
slow down.
Go
You know,
down.
Go down.
yeah, you don't stop running away from that education because I was a knucklehead. I wasn't worried about school. I can go into detail, but I wasn't there a lot
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
uh, More than some of my people, but I miss some days, and get that education, man, because get that education because it ain't you can't run from it. You
Yeah.
know, we still 41, we still going to school, still getting
Yeah.
education, still learning somehow, and now that I understand the importance of having that education and being able to speak, with a clear mind, understanding mind, and being able to see things, man, get that education. I wouldn't change my path of what happened and where I went, but get your education, smarten up, show appreciation, just
Mhm.
around it. It's
Mhm.
a lot I can tell myself. 3 minutes, boy.
Yeah, I will. If
My
I
mom
could,
spent a long time talking to me, so 3 minutes ain't enough to tell me, 'cause I know what I did.
Yeah.
She
Oh yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah. Oh
We
yeah.
all did.
Yeah. My 19-year-old self, man, little context. I've been on my own since I was 17.
17 years old, kicked out on the street.
Yep. Yep.
That's rough,
And
man. That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
to be honest, the way things were at home, I was fine with it, Uh, you know, I was gonna make it. I was in survival mode already.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, uh, my background being, brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, I was shielded a lot from the world. I was green, hadn't didn't know, what the streets were like. Um, I hadn't even had sex then, or anything. So I was totally green. So that being said, when I moved to Atlanta uh, at 19,
Woo.
I was buck wild. I was like that spring that you couldn't hold no more, and you let it go, and that's how I was, man. And so I burned hard and fast. And my advice to my 19-year-old self would, you know, piggyback on what Jay said: slow down, because the way I was running and whatnot, it was like there was no tomorrow. I'm gonna do everything that I get a chance to do in these 19 years. I'm gonna do it as quick as possible. But I learned fast that it'll burn you out, And if I could go back, and I would definitely tap myself on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, man, sit your ass down."
For sure.
Sit
Atlanta
down,
ain't
slow
going nowhere.
down,
It ain't going nowhere.
breathe, take a minute, because everything that you think ain't gonna be there tomorrow is gonna be there.
Hey, Tell, come on, Tell. You would tell your 19-year-old self, do not go to Freaknik.
Yeah.
I know it's down the street.
Right.
Do
Hey,
not go.
and,
Look,
and see,
I'm gonna
I was always a dancer, man. I was a Michael Jackson fan growing up. So I was always into dance. And I don't know if y'all have seen on the TikTok, the Yeet videos and all that kind of stuff. That was me, trying to get into the latest videos. I could get in all the clubs. I knew I was in that scene in Atlanta. It wasn't, I clubbed 5 days a week, Tuesday through Sunday.
Didn't
I,
wake up till 11
I was
o'clock to
a club.
go.
My man,
I was in a different club, every
my
night.
man.
I, that was me.
That's a
But
different episode, Tim. A different episode.
yeah. So I'm just saying that's how
Yeah.
I was, that was 19-year-old me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would tell my younger self a lot of the same things that you guys have already mentioned, but I will home in on appreciation and the value of showing appreciation. Um, actually caring about, it's okay to care about people. It's okay to be selfless. That'd be another big one. I'll tell myself that it's okay to be selfless, because when you're that age, man, you're running, you're hurting feelings. You don't care about nothing. You're blowing money. You know what I'm saying? You just everything that's the things that are important to you at that age. Now that you're older, I think we all can sit there and say those things weren't important, right? But then I will also tell my 19-year-old self, don't let a mistake define you mentally. If you hurt somebody or if you make a mistake, apologize for it, change your ways, and grow from it.
Mm.
Don't be bound by it. Don't use it as fuel to continue to do wrong. Also,
Right.
so if I was talking to my younger self, I would probably take that approach, because I think that at that stage in my life, only thing I cared about was Travis and what Travis wanted
Mm.
at that stage in my life. And even at that age, we still have a lot to give. Believe it or not, we still have a lot to give. And just not to lose sight of that, not to lose sight of how good God is.
But that makes sense, Travis. You didn't grow up with siblings, right? So you didn't learn
only child.
this year. So it makes sense that you had to kind of grow out of that.
Yeah.
Give him no pass.
Slow learner, baby. Slow learner, Greg. Slow learner.
My 19-year-old self, and I'll just give everyone some context here. I grew up in Cross Keys, which is in Union County. And if you know anything about Union, I consider Union town. So Jay has been to my house.
Wait, this South
Jay
Carolina?
know that.
Hold on, Don. This South Carolina?
Yeah, South Carolina.
Where's that, Greg? Help me out. I'm lost.
I think Union is like Blythewood used to be. I think it has that sign. They used to make a joke about Blythewood, and I'm not cutting you off, Don.
No.
They said, "Welcome to Blythewood," and you look at the other side of the sign. They said, "Thank you for coming." That's how small Blythewood is. Now it's done grown out of context.
I'm trying to think.
I'm not sure. Union is down there by Charleston area.
No, Union is in the upstate near Spartanburg. And
okay.
Oh, okay.
It's way up yonder.
Yonder.
Upstate.
Yes, yonder.
All right.
So the middle of nowhere, right? Now you get
Yeah. I'm with you now. I'm with you.
Okay. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere, but as I tell people, I grew up rich because I grew up rich and sheltered, but not in the typical rich and sheltered way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up rich because I grew up around all of my family, uncles, aunts, cousins, and everybody treated us well. We didn't necessarily have a lot, but we didn't know we didn't have a lot because everybody around us didn't have a lot, right? But it was so much love in that community I grew up in. But we were all, and it's not really a but, and we were all country folks. So country folks don't really want for much, but you're not really exposed to much. So you're not aware of the world outside of your protective circle. So that's how I grew up. So I grew up in a rich environment, in love and community. So I think I told someone I know what a little bit what heaven will be like. It will be like, the little place I grew up in, with some gold streaks.
All
With the
right.
streaks paved in gold. But so I grew up that way. So in Union, going to Union, a small school. And I kind of touched on it earlier before about some of my dispositions about how I felt about things. And I didn't even mention I lost my grandmother too, who raised me. She raised me because my mom worked so much. So she raised me until I was in the 4th grade when she passed, right? So I took that hard too. So a lot of loss. So that made me a quiet, shy kid, but love sports. So sports were my outlet. Anyways, I say that to say that when I got out on my own went to USC, I just wasn't exposed to a lot. And my dreams were not big enough. I saw recently what someone said, you can only dream as big as your exposure. And that was me. So my dreams were that confined. So I would tell 19-year-old Donovan that, man, there's a big world out here, and that you are smart enough, you have everything you need to be any and everything you want to be. Go for it. So and the way I grew up kind of formed me in most of the way I am today. I kind of play things safe. I'm not a risk taker. But I would tell my younger self, man, dream bigger. Your dreams are too small.
Yeah. So, Donovan, you mentioned what you did in your pastime, what kept you, moving, even though you had a lot going on, that shy, quiet kid. So at these ages that we are now, what are some healthy things that you guys are doing to keep, keep trucking, to keep maintaining, to keep growing, as just men in general?
You know what I realized? It's not just that I just realized it. Is how much I love to read. And I hate reading as a kid, right? In school. Luckily, things I showed up in class and I could recall things, and I picked things up just by going to class. But man, I enjoy reading, and I enjoy reading, history. History. I hated history. So reading.
Yeah.
I like the brotherhood. I
Oh yeah.
growing up, I always had people around me, but I had close relationships with a couple of cats, but we always seemed to live in different places. So it wasn't like having somebody in town that you can just really, talk to, confide in, and whatnot. It's one thing to talk, on the phone, but to sit down face to face and relate to somebody, get their reaction, really, get their real time reaction, you know, that's a whole different dynamic, man. And I just, in the last 7, 8 years, man, that's something that I really, you know, took hold to, when it comes to you and Jamal. Just being able to, have those morning breakfast times, and or just whenever we, do get together, man, and we pick each other's brains about what's going on, or we confide in each other, it is real. That brotherhood is real, man, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing, man. And I look forward to, my conversations with you, Travis, and Greg, picking y'all's brains about, different things that how would y'all have, handled this, or dealt with this, in that way. So that's something that, I really appreciate, now.
I'll tell you guys this about Tim. The times we hung out together, he on about 3 or 4 occasions, I've laughed so hard where I hurt, where my jaws hurt, my belly hurt, and this me and my wife, we just laughed so hard at Tim being Tim that so that's what you got to look forward to.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right.
So yeah, as serious as he is now, that's what I love about face to face with him, man. I have the time of my life, just
Always.
living, enjoying life.
Laughter is
Yeah.
good for the heart.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
But a lot of brothers don't take time out for other brothers. Women do it all the time.
Yeah.
My wife, sometimes she'll leave church, and 5 minutes after she'll get out of church, she's on the phone with the same people she just talked to. I'm just like, what's going on? They talk constantly, they'll meet constantly. But a lot of time, us as men, guys, fellas, whatever, I think we don't be sounding boards for each other as much. I think we try to fix everything on our own.
Yeah.
And sometimes we want somebody to talk to as well, other than just sitting there and trying to figure it out.
It's hard for me to ask for help, Greg.
Yeah, likewise.
I don't like to bother nobody, right? I hate to bother. I hate to waste people's time, and I hate to bother people. Those are my two.
Why should it be a bother though, Donald?
It wouldn't be. I thought about it. I was like, man, if Tim and Jamal were to ask, I hope they don't need help with something and don't call me, because I love helping them. So,
Yeah.
I guess I gotta put that same hat on and reverse it. Because
we got to learn how to let people in, and I think that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Being that we in such close proximity, I'm doing projects all the time, and boy, I be picking up 2x4s by myself, sheetrock by myself, and all kind of stuff. And y'all ain't but a phone call away,
right?
And I ain't gonna lie, like you said, being a bother, you don't want to be a bother, but you want to get things done. But I think in a learning like capacity, it's allowing people into your life, because you may not need help, but they may need some time away that could benefit them, and not being selfish and letting people in. And like you were saying, Greg, normalize talking about what's really going on. Hey man, how you doing? Man, I'm straight, man. Meanwhile, you got the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you don't want to let it out.
You don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah, learn how to be a man and being vulnerable. And a lot of people think that's weak, but man, look, I feel better. I'd rather get it out the way. I'd rather talk about it, and that's something I'm learning.
Older people say pressure bust a pipe.
That right there, that's a struggle. That's a struggle for me, man. And I don't know. I think as I've gotten older and going through some issues, health issues and stuff, you can't, I think it was a point in time where I got comfortable being isolated.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just real talk. And so what the dangers in that is when you get accustomed to being isolated, man, like your mind really messes with you. Right. And not in like a godly way. Right. And it's one of the things that I appreciate about Keisha so much. Keisha will from time to time ask me, like, have you spoken to Greg? Like, yeah, I think me and Greg probably talked 2 weeks ago, and then she'll just kind of give me like a side eye, right? I got a couple partners up here, Dion. She's like, last time you talked to Dion, I'll be like, okay, all right, I get the hint, I get the hint. And but I think what it is, I just think is that is her identifying the importance of it,
Yeah.
right? It's not only is it healthy to always stay connected, but it's good to check on folks, man. If younger men, right? Let's stay connected to them. Let's talk to them, like not tell them how to live their lives, nothing to that extent, but just let them know, man, that you know that we can be a safe place to help them navigate through whatever life is throwing at them at that point in time. I think that's big because I think when I realized that I probably was in my upper 30s, maybe early 40s, when I was like, it's okay to call Greg and tell Greg, yo, dude, man, like I'm sad today, dog, and I don't know why,
Mm.
right? It's okay. We use the word today to be vulnerable, but I think that in a lot of ways that's healthy,
Yes.
right? I think in a lot of ways that's healthy, and I think and it's not a masculinity thing, right? It's not a masculinity thing. It's all about being healthy, mind, body, and spirit, right? And I think if we're healthy mind, body, and spirit, then we're able to deal with what life has to offer, whether good or bad. And so that's just my spill, man.
That's
That's
good
good
stuff.
stuff.
Our pastor touched on something similar to that in church this past week. And he was talking about getting his son to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about how just asking a male to, hey, what are you thinking about?
Mhm.
Don't really dang. Especially as men, we like to have it figured out first, right? Then we'll talk about it after we figured it out for ourselves. But what he said was, and I think this is probably still true for us at this age, is that he took his son out and they were having an activity together, and then they begin to kind of open up with what's going on. I think that's probably would still be true for me today. Like if I'm just talking to Tim or Jamal, it's just this is just life, right? But then if we were out at the gym or bowling or just hanging out, then I'll probably like, yeah, man, you know what? This thing is going on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll be more inclined to open up
Yeah.
when we're doing an activity because we just don't. Hey, what you're thinking about? That ain't
Yeah.
how we're wired, right?
Yeah.
So just FY, especially with a young man, right? If we're kind of mentoring one of a younger man, take them out, kind of get them out, get them talking.
I
That'd probably
think
be the best
Talking.
approach.
I think learning how to go back to where we were. Just like we were just telling our younger selves, slow
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Here we are, still at this age. We probably still need to tell ourselves to slow down because we have so much going on that we want to accomplish that we have to do.
You know what I've learned, Jamal, or even at our age now, it's good to have a father figure, someone who's done it, right? To say, hey man, what happens now? You know, what
Yeah.
happens at 50? What would you told your 50-year-old self? Tell me. But we don't have, unfortunately, most of us don't have that person around.
That's good stuff right there, man.
But if we can find that person, hey man, what do you think? What
What you
changed
just
for
said
you at
was
this?
communication.
Yeah.
What's that?
You just told me it was communication was key.
Yeah, right.
Very key. Yeah.
So it's realizing so the thing I realized with raising my boys is that I would love to be their friend, but I don't ever want to not be a father when they need one. And that's the most important job I have.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna always maintain that relationship above anything else.
But
Yeah.
and that I think I don't want to take up the time, but that the term friend, it comes off as, you know, I ain't one of your little friends, but being a friend is being available, being willing to talk about things
But
that
you know what I mean by it too, Jay, right?
oh no, I know. I
You,
definitely
you
I know.
know.
I'm on both sides of it. Yeah, I want to be able to have fun with you, but I also want to be able to have a real conversation, you know, talk a little mess, talk a little trash, you know, and still be a father for you. You know,
Right.
having that balance is what I think what it kind of boils down to, just in my opinion.
No, no, you're right. Because you have to have that friend relationship, right? For them to be able to open up to you about things, right? So yeah, it's
I
a
Well,
think
balance.
it's finding
I-
that happy medium too,
well,
you know, in
yeah,
between both,
yeah.
both, you know.
I think you treading some deep water, man, when you
It
use
is right.
the using the friend term as you relating to your kids. I think that you can be the parent and still enjoy all of that
Mm,
while being the parent. I don't have to be viewed as your friend or your buddy for us to enjoy these things. The
mm,
conversation, the laughing, the joking, the competitiveness, sports talk and all of this stuff. I can still be I can still be dad and we can do all of this stuff. But as your dad, your child has to know that there's even in the good time, there's a line.
The
mm,
respect.
There's a
yeah,
line that you don't come across
Yeah.
because we can laugh and joke right now, but I could be dad just that fast, right?
Yeah.
mm,
And I think we all have it in us, right? And I think as your kids as they grow, I think your kids, I think they learn that. They
Yeah.
learn what the line is, right? There's just certain things you don't do or say or way you behave around mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
Like we could talk about anything, but like there's certain things like we could be talking about something serious, but like we're not passing curse words.
Yeah.
With your friend, you might be passing curse words as you talk about a particular situation. But when you're talking about that situation with your parent, no, we're not. No, you can, other words than these
mm,
curse words to express yourself. So my suggestion would be let's use those words and express how you feeling as you talk to me because I'm your parent, right?
mm,
And I don't think you lose. I don't think you can. I guess my point is, I think that you always can be the parent, right, and enjoy all of that with your child. But like any child, like even with my mother, like I don't be cussing and all that carrying on in front of my mom, and I'm
mm,
52 years old, right? It's just a line that you just don't cross, right? I go to Greg house, Greg mom and dad. I love them to death. We cut up, me and Greg, Pete, man, we cut up, bro. I mean, we cut up. But the language and the things I say, how we laugh, how we go up, like there's always a level of respect. And that's just a line that the way I was raised, that's just a line you don't cross that line. Like you just don't cross that line. And so I mean, I guess it's different opinion. It could be wordplay
Yeah,
to
I think it
some.
comes down to wordplay,
Yeah, it
but
could be
Yeah.
wordplay.
the
But
the overarching is really just a relationship.
yeah.
You can have, you know, multiple relationships into one. I'm gonna be your dad, but I'm
Mhm.
also gonna be somebody that you can trust and that you can communicate with. And that's just something I think I want to learn how to do is have that
Yeah.
true balance is what Tim was saying. Have balance with your young adult kids because these are adults, they're not just kids.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
23 and they're 4 and they're 20 and, you know, 30-year-old kids, you know. You want a relationship with them.
Well, I can tell you, Greg, Jamal, Tim, by being around y'all boys, y'all doing an awesome job with them, man.
Mhm.
There's
Appreciate you.
some good, respectful
yeah.
boys. And Travis, I'm sure
Work
if
in
I
progress.
met your son, I could say the same about
Yeah,
your
he might
son.
talk a little trash about me, but he love me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Looking to
Likewise.
hear it, brother.
Yeah, I used to, guys, before we moved over to this side of town, Colin used to come and spend the summer with us, man. And man, I enjoyed that Joker so much. Having him in Tampa. Because I always enjoy when the boys had a good older cousin around them to show them the right things to do. So I appreciated that so much.
My
So
dude.
good job, Greg.
The crazy you say that though,
That's my
Travis
dude.
get with Janae so much about she actually Colin's birthday is the same day as Travis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Him and Janae always going back and forth. She said that's the reason
Right.
why.
That's
Oh, right. He got on her nerves so mad, so
Right.
bad.
She blessed me with that great gift
Okay.
that I remind her yearly.
Every time.
Yeah.
Man, I want to say, before we all moved into the same neighborhood, it was always just me and Aiden everywhere, basketball, we did everything. But man, I'm telling you, I cannot express enough appreciation for both you and Donovan and Jamal, how y'all just took Aiden in, with y'all's boys, and y'all didn't hesitate, when y'all was doing something, you included him. I mean, he just, I can't even express. I mean, I know sometimes I would tell him, man, they let them do they thing together, you just was over there,
Hey, come on,
but
bring him on.
y'all be like, shoot, and Jay, man, I'm telling you, man, just without even asking, hey, we coming to pick Aiden up. We coming to scoop him up. We taking him over here. And same with you, Donovan. We going fishing, come by there and pick him up, and it just made such an impact on him, you know, having somebody else outside of me, take time with him and, pour into him, you know, and I just,
It takes a
I
village,
love
bro.
you guys,
It's a
man.
It takes a
village.
village.
Yeah.
And I'm just modeling what I saw growing up, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
those things
Stuff.
have lasting impacts on us, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good
That's
stuff.
why y'all still in my circle to this day, man. Yeah.
All right, somebody want to pray us out? Who
Oh man, we lost track of time, didn't we?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what time it is.
I'll pray us up.
Go ahead.
Right.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, we approach you once again with humble hearts, hearts of joy, just thanking you, Father, for this opportunity to, just chop it up with like-minded brothers, being vulnerable, showing appreciation for us as brothers, and more than anything, showing appreciation for those queens that you set in our paths early on in our young manhood lives, and the impact that they've had on our lives, Father.
Yes,
Uh, we just appreciate it. We appreciate them as our wives, as the mother of our children, and their spiritual steadfastness and their love for you, Father. We just can't express it enough. We give you all the praise and honor and glory, Father, because without you, none of this would be possible. And so, as we depart until we meet again, Father, we just ask for your guidance and protection, and may we do any and everything to bring honor and glory to your name. So we ask all this, Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.